"You'll love the new nursing home," my son said. The next day, I disappeared forever. Was I wrong for what I did? Tell me honestly if you would have done the same thing, because I still wonder if I pushed it too far. If I was too extreme, but in the moment, it felt like the only way out, the only way to reclaim a sliver of the life that was being so callously stripped away from me. Imagine, if you can, waking up one morning and realizing that every decision, every choice, every aspect of your existence is no longer your own. That's where I was. I'm Clara, or at least I was Clara. Now I'm just a ghost story, a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones, I suppose. And it all started with a broken hip, a little fall that changed everything. I had always been fiercely independent. My husband, bless his soul, passed 10 years ago, leaving me with our quaint little house, a blooming garden, and a lifetime of memories. We built that house together, brick by brick, dream by dream. Every rose bush in the garden had a story. Every creaky floorboard held an echo of laughter. It was my sanctuary, my testament to a life well lived. My son, David, was a good boy in his own way. He was successful, busy, always chasing the next big deal in his corporate world. He lived a few towns over with his wife, Sarah, and their 2 children, Lily and Tom, who were the absolute lights of my life. I saw them often enough, or so I thought. After my fall, everything shifted. It was a stupid accident, really. Reaching for a high shelf in the kitchen, lost my balance, and down I went. The pain was excruciating, a sharp, searing fire that shot through my hip. The ambulance came, the hospital stay was a blur of white sheets and hushed voices, and then came the grim diagnosis: a fractured femoral neck. Surgery was necessary, and recovery would be long. David was there, of course. He seemed genuinely concerned at first. "Mom, you scared us half to death," he said, his hand gripping mine. Sarah brought flowers, Lily drew me a crayon picture of a smiling sun, and Tom, my sweet, quiet Tom, just sat by my bedside, holding my hand. It was comforting for a while, but as the days turned into weeks and the initial shock wore off, a subtle change began to creep in. My doctor explained that I would need extensive physical therapy and that living alone, even in my beloved house, would be a challenge for a good few months. David took this as his cue. "Mom, you can't stay there alone," he insisted. "It's too dangerous. What if you fall again? What if something happens and no one's around?" His concern, I now realize, was less about my safety and more about his convenience. He proposed I move in with them temporarily. I was hesitant. I loved my grandchildren, but Sarah and I had always had a polite, somewhat distant relationship. She was a meticulous homemaker, and I was a bit more relaxed. Still, I was vulnerable, and the thought of being a burden weighed heavily on me. "It's just until you're back on your feet, Mom," David assured me. "We'll get a ramp installed at your house, maybe a stairlift. You'll be back home in no time." So I agreed. My house was locked up, my plants entrusted to a neighbor, and I moved into their spacious, but somewhat sterile, guest room. The first few weeks weren't terrible. Lily and Tom were a delight, always eager to show me their drawings or read me a story. David was at work most days, and Sarah was Sarah. She had a schedule for everything, and my presence, I could tell, threw a wrench in her perfectly organized routine. My physical therapy was slow but steady. I worked hard, determined to regain my independence. I wanted to go home. I missed my garden, my books, the quiet solitude of my own space. But every time I brought it up, David would wave it away. "Mom, let's not rush things. You're doing so well here. We love having you." The "we" felt increasingly disingenuous. Sarah would offer a strained smile, and I started noticing the subtle glances she would exchange with David. The conversations about my going home became less frequent, then non-existent. Then came the bigger changes. My financial affairs, which I had always managed meticulously, suddenly became a topic of discussion. "Mom, with your limited mobility, it might be easier if I just handle your bills for a while," David suggested one evening. "Just until you're fully recovered." I protested, but he was insistent, citing my recent accident as proof that I was not as sharp as I used to be. It hurt. I was 82, not senile, but again, I was vulnerable and I didn't want to cause trouble. I handed over access to my accounts with a heavy heart. That's when things really started to unravel. My phone, which I used to call my friends and stay in touch with my life outside David's house, started disappearing. Sometimes it would be misplaced. Other times the battery would inexplicably die right when I needed to make a call. When I did manage to get through to a friend, David or Sarah would often hover nearby, making polite but pointed remarks about how I needed my rest, or how I shouldn't overexert myself. My friends, bless them, started getting the hint and calling less frequently. I was slowly being isolated. The biggest blow came when I overheard a conversation between David and Sarah. They thought I was asleep, but I was just resting, pretending to read. "Her house is perfect for the new development," Sarah whispered, her voice tight with excitement. "It's in the ideal location, and honestly, with her health, she's not going to be able to manage it anymore. We can get a good price." David sighed. "I know, but how do we bring it up? She loves that place." "Don't bring it up," Sarah said, her voice chillingly practical. "We just make the decision. It's for her own good, David. Think of the peace of mind. And besides, with the money, we can finally get that new kitchen we've always wanted." My heart sank to my stomach. My house. They were planning to sell my house. Not only that, but they were already spending the money in their minds. It wasn't about my well-being. It was about their financial gain. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I wasn't just staying with them. I was being slowly, deliberately stripped of my autonomy, my home, my entire identity. I lay there, tears silently streaming down my face, feeling utterly betrayed and helpless. I was trapped. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have confronted them? Would you have tried to reach out to someone? Or would you have taken a more unconventional approach? Because what I did next, I admit, was unconventional. It was born out of desperation, out of a profound sense of loss and anger, and a deep, burning desire to reclaim some semblance of control. I started planning. My mobility was still limited, but my mind was as sharp as ever, honed by years of managing a household and running a small business with my husband. I pretended to be more confused than I was. I would forget where I put things, mistake Sarah for a nurse, and often gaze out the window with a vacant stare, sighing dramatically. David and Sarah, already convinced I was declining, ate it up. "Poor Mom," I heard Sarah say once. "It's probably for the best that we're making these decisions for her now." This facade gave me an unexpected advantage. They underestimated me. They saw a frail, forgetful old woman, not a woman whose spirit was raging against the injustice. My first step was to regain access to my finances. I accidentally overheard David giving Sarah the password to his online banking, muttering about how he needed to transfer funds. I filed it away. Later, when they were both out, I painstakingly navigated to his computer, which he usually left logged in, and found my banking details. To my horror, I saw that a significant portion of my savings had already been transferred to a joint account he shared with Sarah. My house was indeed listed, albeit discreetly, with a local realtor. The betrayal was deeper than I had imagined. But I also saw an opportunity. My pension, my remaining investments, they hadn't touched those yet. I needed to act fast. I called my oldest and most trusted friend, Margaret. This was tricky. David had, by now, confiscated my phone entirely, citing my habit of leaving it on the charger and forgetting it. But Lily, bless her innocent heart, still had her little tablet, which had Wi-Fi access. One afternoon, while David and Sarah were out and Lily was engrossed in a cartoon, I whispered to her, "Sweetheart, can Nana use your tablet for just a moment? I want to look up a recipe." She readily agreed. I quickly opened a private browser and found Margaret's number. "Margaret," I whispered into the tablet's microphone, my voice choked with emotion. "It's Clara. I need your help." I explained everything in hurried, hushed tones, the fear of being caught a constant companion. Margaret, a formidable woman herself, listened patiently. "Clara, you poor dear," she said, her voice firm. "Don't you worry, we'll get you out of this." Margaret was my lifeline. Over the next few days, through whispered calls on Lily's tablet and carefully worded emails I sent from David's computer when he was out, we hatched a plan. The sale of my house was moving surprisingly fast, given its desirable location. The closing date was set for 2 weeks from then. We didn't have much time. I instructed Margaret to contact a lawyer, an old family friend, and explain the situation. My main objective was to ensure my house was protected, and my money was inaccessible to David. The lawyer advised me to sign a power of attorney, revoking David's access and giving it to Margaret, which I did electronically through an encrypted link Margaret sent me. This was a critical step. My funds were then transferred to an offshore account that David knew nothing about. It was aggressive, but necessary. The day before the planned closing of my house, David came home beaming. "Mom, great news. We found an absolutely wonderful place for you. It's called Harmony Meadows, and you'll love it. Beautiful grounds, lots of activities, and a wonderful staff." Sarah chimed in, "It's top-notch, Clara. You'll be so comfortable there, and it's so much safer than being in your old house alone." My heart pounded, but I kept my face a mask of mild confusion. "Harmony Meadows," I mumbled. "Oh, that sounds nice, dear." Inside, I was screaming. They were moving me into a nursing home, not even bothering to discuss it, simply presenting it as a done deal. And the timing, the day after my house sold, it was all too clear. The next morning was moving day, for me. David and Sarah, dressed in their Sunday best, drove me to what they called Harmony Meadows. It was a grand, imposing building, manicured lawns, and a polite, smiling staff. Everything felt clinical. They ushered me into a tastefully decorated room, complete with a new bed, a small dresser, and a window overlooking a pristine, but utterly impersonal, courtyard. "See, Mom, isn't it lovely?" David chirped, his voice falsely bright. I just nodded, a tear escaping my eye. He mistook it for sadness, for fear. It was, but it was also a tear of triumph. As they were about to leave, David handed me a small, neatly wrapped gift. "A little something to make your room feel more like home, Mom." It was a framed photo of my garden, taken before my fall, vibrant and full of life. The irony was not lost on me. "Thank you, dear," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "You've been very kind." That was the last thing I ever said to them. They waved goodbye, David with a relieved smile, Sarah with a sense of barely concealed satisfaction. They thought they had won, They thought they had finally rid themselves of their burden, but they hadn't counted on Margaret, and they hadn't counted on my defiance. As soon as their car pulled out of sight, I turned to the smiling nurse who was assigned to me. "Excuse me, dear," I said, my voice suddenly clear and strong, devoid of any feigned frailty. "Could you please direct me to the nearest exit? I have an appointment." The nurse, startled, stammered, "But, Mrs. Peterson, you just arrived. Your son said you were checking in." I smiled sweetly. "My son is mistaken. I was simply visiting a friend who lives here. My real home, you see, is elsewhere." She was clearly confused, but I walked past her, my cane tapping firmly on the polished floor. I walked straight out the front door, into the waiting car driven by Margaret. We drove directly to the lawyer's office. The following day, David received a very interesting phone call. It wasn't from me, of course. It was from our family lawyer, who informed him, in no uncertain terms, that the sale of my house had been put on hold due to irregularities concerning the power of attorney. He also informed David that all my financial accounts were now inaccessible to him, and that I had filed a police report concerning financial exploitation and elder abuse. The phone call concluded with the lawyer stating that I was perfectly healthy, mentally sound, and living comfortably in a new, private residence, which he would not disclose. The shock, I imagine, must have been immense. Their carefully constructed plan, their new kitchen, their financial windfall all gone. My house, my beloved home, was now in a trust, managed by Margaret and the lawyer, ensuring it would never be sold without my explicit, informed consent. I never spoke to David or Sarah again. They tried to contact me, of course, through the lawyer, through desperate emails, even sending Lily and Tom to my old house, hoping I'd be there. But I was gone. I disappeared from their lives forever. I didn't want their apologies. I didn't want their excuses. I simply wanted my peace, and I had taken it back. I now live in a charming little cottage by the sea, a place Margaret helped me find. It's smaller than my old house, but it's mine. I have my garden, a new set of rose bushes, and the soothing sound of the ocean reminding me that life, even in its twilight, can still hold unexpected beauty and freedom. Lily and Tom, I arranged for them to visit me occasionally, with Margaret as the intermediary. They don't understand the complexities, but they still get to see their Nana, and that's all that matters to me. David and Sarah, as far as I know, are still living in their perfectly clean, sterile house, wondering what happened to Mom. So, was I wrong for what I did? For disappearing, for cutting them out of my life, for taking such drastic measures to protect myself? I don't know. Perhaps some would say it was harsh, but for me it was survival. It was reclaiming my dignity, my autonomy, my very self. It was the only way to stop myself from disappearing in a different, far more tragic sense. My story might be unusual, but I hope it serves as a reminder to always be vigilant, to protect your independence, and to never underestimate the resolve of an old woman pushed to her limit. Like this video if you were on my side. Subscribe for more stories like this, and share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. I'll see you all in the next story.